Every morning, just before sunrise, when the city of Eterna 9 was still asleep under its silver clouds, Dr. Elias Ward woke to the same soft sound. Knock, knock, knock. It was gentle but clear, echoing through the quiet metal hallway of his small apartment. He always heard it at the same time, 5:47 a.m., for 3 long years. At first, Elias thought it was just city noise, maybe the wind, or a loose pipe tapping against the metal wall. But when he checked the security feed, he saw her, a small figure standing outside his door. Every morning she came. Every morning she knocked 3 times. And every morning she whispered the same word, Daddy. Elias used to laugh it off. He had no children, never married, and never wanted to. He was a man who built machines, not families. His work in the human biotech division had consumed his life. But over time the laughter faded, replaced by something else. A strange, heavy feeling that sat in his chest whenever he heard that small voice. He had never seen her face clearly. The cameras on his door were old and half broken. The image was always blurry, like static snow covering the truth, but he could tell she was small, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with pale hair and a faint glow to her skin. People in the city talked about ghosts, androids, or lost alien children wandering after the last war. But Elias didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in science, in things he could measure and fix. Still, no machine could explain a girl who came to his door every single morning for 3 years. He tried ignoring her. He moved to another apartment for a few weeks, but the knocking followed him. The same sound, the same voice. Daddy? It became part of his mornings, like his coffee or the gray light of dawn. Sometimes when he couldn't sleep, he found himself waiting for it, counting the seconds before the first soft knock began. But on this morning, something was different. The knock was slower, weaker, almost like she didn't have the strength to finish. Then silence. Elias frowned and walked to the door. His heart beat faster than it should have. For a moment, he told himself not to care. It's not real, it's never real. But something deep inside whispered that this time, it was. He opened the camera feed again. There she was, the same small figure, but the image was clearer than before. The rain had stopped, the sky behind her glowed orange from the rising sun. He could finally see her face. Her skin was violet, smooth and glowing faintly like starlight. Her hair was silver white, messy and tangled, and her eyes were large, bright, and full of sadness. She held something in her arms, a small round creature, maybe a pet with fur like a golden cloud. She looked up at the camera, eyes wide and scared. Then she whispered again, her lips trembling. Daddy, please open. Elias froze. For the first time he felt fear, not of her but of himself. Because deep down, when he heard her voice, something inside him recognized it, like a forgotten song from a dream. He pressed his hand against the cold metal of the door. Who are you? He said quietly. Why do you call me that? The girl tilted her head as if she could hear him through the steel wall. For a moment she almost smiled. Then a flash of blue light appeared behind her like a spark or a scanner beam, and she turned to run. Elias quickly opened the door, but by the time he stepped outside, she was gone. Only small wet footprints remained, glowing faintly on the concrete. He picked up something near the door, a small metallic sphere, smooth and warm to the touch. It pulsed softly like it was alive. When he brought it inside, it started to hum and glow brighter. A soft voice came from it. Her voice. Don't forget me, Daddy. Elias dropped it in shock. The sphere rolled across the floor and stopped, its light fading. For hours he just sat there staring at it. His logical mind fought to explain it. Some kind of communication device. A mimic AI? A leftover from the alien conflicts? But another thought, a dangerous one, grew in his mind. What if she wasn't just calling him Daddy out of confusion? What if there was truth in her words? That night, Elias couldn't sleep. The image of her face, her frightened eyes, kept replaying in his head. He searched the city archives for missing alien children, for reports of violet-skinned species, for any record that matched her description. Nothing. Not one name. Not one photo. It was like she didn't exist. At 5:47 the next morning, he waited by the door. The moment came. Knock, knock, knock. He opened it instantly, but again she was gone. Only the sound of rain and the faint glow of her footprints. But something new appeared this time. a small drawing made with chalk on the wall near the door. It showed a stick figure man and a small girl holding hands. Above it, one word, home. Elias stared at it, his heart pounding. He realized this was no random event. Someone or something wanted him to remember her, and for the first time Elias whispered the word he never thought he'd say. Lyra. He didn't know why that name came to him. It just did, naturally, like it had always belonged to her. Outside, thunder rolled across the metal sky. The rain turned to silver mist and the city lights flickered as if watching. Dr. Elias Ward stood at the door, holding the glowing sphere in his hand. His reflection on the steel surface looked tired, lost, and haunted. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he would not just listen. Tomorrow, he would open the door. But deep inside, he already knew. The truth waiting outside was far darker than any dream. And somewhere in the mist, a small voice whispered again, barely heard but full of hope. Daddy? The next morning, Elias didn't drink his coffee. He didn't even check his messages or look outside at the silver fog curling over Eterna 9's skyline. He just stood by the door, waiting. The same hour. The same silence before dawn. And then it came, knock, 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 soft, careful, almost like the sound of a child afraid to wake the world. Elias took a deep breath and opened the door in one quick motion. The cold air rushed in. But no one was there. Just the empty alley stretching into darkness, wet with last night's rain. His eyes searched the shadows. Hello? He called out, voice shaking slightly. No answer. He stepped outside, his boots splashing in a thin puddle. There was no movement, no sound except the hum of city machines far above. Then he noticed it again, the small glowing footprints, faint but fresh. Leading away, he followed them down the alley. Each step flickered for a second before fading. But after 10 meters, the trail simply vanished, like the light itself had been erased. Elias knelt, touching the ground. Still warm. Recently walked on. Whoever she was, she couldn't have gone far. He turned back toward his apartment, but something stopped him. Something small lying near the door. It was another drawing, this one made on a piece of old paper folded neatly. He opened it carefully. The drawing showed a circle, the same metallic sphere she had dropped earlier. And inside it were symbols, strange marks that looked almost alive. He didn't understand them, but he felt a strange pulse from the paper, as if the ink itself was humming. Elias took it inside and placed it next to the sphere. The two objects began to glow softly in rhythm, as if they recognized each other. His computer screen blinked on by itself. Lines of unknown code filled the monitor. Then words appeared. She is real. Find her before they do. Elias froze. Before who does? He whispered. The screen flickered again and the message vanished. He sat there for a long time, staring at the sphere. The girl's voice still echoed in his mind. Daddy, please open! He had never wanted to believe in the impossible. But now the impossible was knocking every morning on his door. He needed answers. Elias accessed the city's archive network. His clearance was still active from his time in the biotech division. He searched for any data on alien refugees, hybrid genetics, or missing children. One file caught his eye. It was marked Genesis Clone Project Terminated. He clicked it. But the screen went black immediately and a warning flashed. Access denied, classified. He tried again, same result. Something or someone was blocking him. That night he sat in darkness, the glowing sphere resting in his hand. He wondered who they were. Maybe government agents, or the same people who created that project. And what if that girl, Lyra, was one of their experiments? The rain started again, tapping softly on the windows. It reminded him of her knocking. He closed his eyes, listening. He remembered the fear in her eyes, the way she held that small furry creature tight against her chest. She wasn't dangerous. She was scared, lost. The clock hit 5:47 again. Without thinking, Elias rose and walked to the door. This time he whispered first, Lyra, are you there? Silence, then knock, knock, knock. He pulled the door open fast, but again no one was there. Only the sound of her voice, faint but near, don't forget me. And this time he saw something new, tiny sparks floating in the air, glowing particles that shaped themselves into a brief image of the girl's face before disappearing. He touched the cold air where she had been. His hand trembled. She wasn't a ghost. She wasn't an illusion. She was trying to reach him. somehow across time or distance or both. Elias whispered, "I'll find you. I promise." Behind him, the sphere pulsed once like it had heard him. The paper symbols glowed faintly, forming the same word, Lyra. The door closed behind him, sealing the quiet apartment once again. Outside, in the endless maze of Eterna 9 far from his sight, a small purple-skinned girl looked up at the night sky and whispered softly, "Please, Daddy, hurry." Elias didn't sleep that night. The strange glow from the metallic sphere painted his small apartment in soft blue light. He sat beside it, watching as tiny lines of code flashed across his monitor, then faded again, as if the system was alive and breathing. He tried running a DNA scan on the sphere's surface. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. Human. Partial match 48%. He blinked in disbelief. Half human? That couldn't be right. He checked again. The data confirmed it. Half of the genetic code inside that object was his own. Elias leaned back in his chair, hands trembling. "No, that's impossible," he whispered. The computer flickered once more. A hidden folder appeared in the corner of his screen. The title read, Project Genesis Clone, Archive, Jarku 7. For a moment, he hesitated. His clearance shouldn't allow him to open anything that deep inside the system. Yet the file just sat there waiting for him. He clicked it. The screen turned white, then filled with hundreds of pages, research logs, video fragments, and test results. He scrolled down until one file name froze him cold. Subject, Lyra 7, status missing, genetic donor, Dr. Elias Ward. The words blurred before his eyes. He whispered, "Genetic donor?" The room felt smaller, air heavier. His heart raced as the truth started forming. Lyra wasn't calling him Daddy by mistake. She had his DNA. She was made from it. The logs continued. Subject Lyra 7 shows high emotional intelligence and memory bonding response toward donor. Test terminated due to ethical conflict and instability in containment units. Then another note appeared, dated 3 years ago. Evacuation order. Subject escaped during shutdown. Record erased to prevent exposure. Elias's blood turned cold. 3 years ago. That was when she first appeared at his door. He scrolled further down until a short video opened automatically. The grainy feed showed a small chamber. White walls, glowing lights, and inside a glass pod was the same girl he'd seen every morning. Her silver hair shimmered under the lab lights. She looked frightened, pressing her small hands against the glass. A voice in the video said, "Deactivate the donor link. She's forming attachment patterns." Another voice in cold robotics replied, "Order confirmed." The feed ended. Elias sat frozen. His throat felt dry, his heart heavy. All those mornings, all those knocks. She wasn't haunting him, she was searching for him, she was alive, lost, and somehow still trying to reach him. Suddenly, his door alarm buzzed. Someone was outside. He quickly turned off the monitor and walked slowly to the door. Through the small screen beside the frame, he saw 2 dark-cloaked figures standing there. Their uniforms bore the symbol of the Biotech Authority, the same division he once worked for. They didn't knock. They scanned the lock. Elias's instincts screamed. He grabbed the glowing sphere and hid it under his coat. Then he slipped quietly out through the back stairway, moving fast down the narrow alleys of Eterna 9. Behind him, he heard the metallic hiss of the main door opening. Voices echoed inside. "Search everything. He has the prototype link." Rain poured from the upper vents, painting the streets in shimmering silver. Elias moved through the neon fog, his mind racing. The Biotech Authority was hunting her, and now they were hunting him. He ducked into an abandoned station near the city's edge. The old monitors still flickered weakly. He connected the sphere to one of them using a cracked wire. Instantly, the system came alive. A map appeared, lines of light forming the outline of the city. At the far corner near the Old Dome District, a red signal blinked. He zoomed in. The label read, Subject Lyra 7, signal weak. His hands tightened into fists. "She's still here," he whispered. But before he could plan his next move, the sphere pulsed again and a soft voice filled the silence. "Daddy, please." "They're coming." The sound sent chills through him. It wasn't just a recording. It was live. Elias looked at the map one last time. The red signal flickered, fading slowly. He knew he had no choice. He had built machines his whole life. But now he would have to do something no machine could: save his daughter. He grabbed his jacket and the sphere, stepped out into the cold metal rain and whispered to himself, "Hold on, Lyra, I'm coming." Far away beyond the dome's broken glass, a small purple-skinned girl sat shivering beside a dying light, whispering into the wind. "Daddy will come," he promised. The rain never stopped in Eterna 9. It fell like silver threads, turning the streets into rivers of light. Elias ran through the narrow lanes, clutching the small glowing sphere close to his chest. Behind him, he could hear the faint hum of drones slicing through the mist. The biotech authority had found him faster than he expected. He turned into an alley, his boots splashing through puddles, his heart hammering. The buildings around him were tall, built from metal and glass reflecting the flashing lights of the patrol drones. Every corner looked the same, cold gray, endless. He ducked behind a stack of broken machinery and caught his breath. The sphere pulsed again softly. "Lyra," he whispered. It answered with a faint whisper. "Hurry." The sound of the child's voice gave him strength. He checked the small tracker map again. The red dot, her signal, was still active, blinking weakly from the city's edge. But with every second it faded a little more. He had to move. Elias stepped out of hiding and ran again, deeper into the forgotten district. This was the old part of Eterna 9, where the lights flickered and the air smelled of rust. No one came here anymore. Only old workers, outlaws, and machines too broken to recycle. He stopped at an old market gate and scanned the area. A small flicker of movement caught his eye, a shadow darting between two walls. "Who's there?" he whispered. A voice replied from behind the pipes, calm and rough. "Relax, Doctor. You're making a lot of noise for a man being hunted." Elias turned sharply. A woman stepped into the light, wearing a torn coat full of wires and devices. Her eyes were bright and quick, her hands steady. "I'm Nova," she said. "I used to work for the same people chasing you." Elias stared. "You know about Lyra?" Nova nodded slowly. "I know they called her a mistake, but I call her a miracle." The sound of approaching drones filled the air again, growing louder. Nova grabbed Elias by the arm. "Come with me if you want to live long enough to see her." They ran together through the maze of tunnels beneath the city. The walls glowed with faint blue light from forgotten circuits. Sparks crackled as Nova pulled a small device from her belt. "She's not far," Nova said. But if you found her signal, so did they. They climbed up an old ladder that led into a massive abandoned dome, once a research facility, now buried under dust and silence. The air inside was cold, smelling of old metal. Elias looked around. On the walls were hundreds of small drawings, childlike pictures made with chalk and dust. He froze when he saw them. Each drawing showed the same man and a small girl, holding hands beside a glowing sphere. Him and Lyra. His hand shook. "She's been here," he said softly. "All this time." Then he heard it. A faint sound from the corner of the room. Knock, knock, knock. He turned slowly. In the shadow stood a small figure, thin, trembling, with silver-white hair shining under the faint light. The small purple-skinned girl looked up with wide, tearful eyes. "Lyra," he whispered. She ran to him and threw her arms around his waist, the glowing sphere between them shining bright. "You came," she said in her soft voice. "You really came." Elias felt his chest tighten. For the first time, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: warmth. But their moment ended quickly. A sharp buzz filled the dome. Red lights blinked across the ceiling as drones broke through the glass above. The biotech authority had arrived. Nova pulled Elias behind an overturned table. "They're locking down the exits," she shouted. Elias looked at Lyra. She was shaking, clutching the small furry creature she always carried. The creature made a low humming sound that seemed to confuse the drones for a moment. Nova tossed a smoke grenade, filling the dome with thick white fog. "Run," she shouted. "I'll cover you!" Elias lifted Lyra into his arms and ran toward the maintenance corridor. Behind him, the drones fired, beams of blue light cutting through the fog. Sparks exploded, metal screamed. He kept running, his heart pounding, the sphere glowing brighter in his pocket, guiding him through the dark. Finally, they burst out into the open air. The city lights glittered below, the storm roaring above. Elias looked down at Lyra, her small eyes glowing faintly. She smiled weakly. "I knew you'd find me, Daddy." He held her tighter. "I'm never letting them take you again." But high above, the sound of the drones returned, and closer than before. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The storm over Eterna 9 had turned violent. Lightning flashed against the metal towers, and the sky glowed blue and white like a shattered mirror. Elias and Lyra hid inside an old cargo ship resting on a forgotten landing pad. The walls creaked from the wind. Rain slipped through the cracks, falling on the cold steel floor. Elias sat beside her, breathing heavily. He had run farther than ever before. His legs hurt, his chest burned, but he didn't care. The small alien girl sat close to him, wrapped in a torn blanket Nova had given before disappearing into the chaos. Lyra looked weak. Her glowing skin had dimmed. Her silvery hair hung damp across her face. She held the little furry creature in her lap, stroking it with slow movements. Elias looked at her carefully. "You're hurt," he said softly. She shook her head. "I'm tired. I've been running too long." Her voice was quiet, trembling like a small flame in the wind. Elias placed his hand on her shoulder. "Who are they, Lyra? The people chasing you?" She hesitated before answering. "They called me..." "Experiment," she stared down. "They said I wasn't supposed to live. That I was broken." Elias felt anger rise in his chest. "You're not broken," he said firmly. "You're alive. You're strong." Lyra looked at him with those deep violet eyes that held both alien beauty and something strangely human. "I remember you," she whispered. "Before I escaped, I saw your face on the screen. They said you were my father." Elias froze. He had known it in his mind, but hearing her say it made his heart stop for a moment. "You saw me?" Lyra nodded. "They said I was made from your blood. That I was half you." She placed her small hand over her chest. "They told me I was created to make humans and my people live together. But when the war ended, they wanted to destroy me." Elias felt his throat tighten. He remembered the project, Genesis Clone. He had helped design the DNA bridge that could unite species. But he never knew they had succeeded. He never knew they had made her. "They lied to me," he said bitterly. "They said the project failed." Lyra leaned against him. "I hid for a long time. Then I found your name. I wanted to see you. I didn't know why, but I felt it." Elias's heart broke. 3 years. 3 long years. She had come every morning to his door, knocking, whispering, "Daddy." While he ignored her, he took her hand gently. "I should have opened the door sooner." She smiled faintly. "You did now." Outside, the sound of engines echoed through the storm. Elias peeked through a crack in the wall. 3 black drones hovered in the distance, scanning the rooftops with red beams. They were closing in. Lyra clutched the glowing sphere. "They can track this," she said quietly. "But it's part of me. I can't destroy it." Elias looked at the sphere, then at her. "Maybe we don't have to destroy it. Maybe we can use it." He pulled out a small device from his jacket, a signal scrambler. "If I link this with the sphere, I can send out a false signal. They'll think you're somewhere else." Lyra watched as he worked quickly, connecting wires, adjusting circuits. Her small creature chirped softly, like it understood what was happening. When Elias finished, the sphere glowed brighter, pulsing fast. The map inside flickered, 2 signals now. One moving south, one staying still. He smiled slightly. "That should buy us time." Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of trust. "Where will we go?" "Somewhere they can't reach," Elias said. "Beyond this city. Maybe beyond this planet." She tilted her head. "Do humans always run when they are afraid?" Elias paused, then smiled sadly. "Sometimes. But sometimes they run to protect the ones they love." Lyra nodded slowly. "Then let's run together." Before he could answer, the ship's metal door shook violently. The sound of heavy boots echoed outside. A mechanical voice called out, "Dr. Elias Ward, surrender the hybrid and the artifact. You are surrounded." Elias grabbed Lyra's hand. "Time's up," he whispered. He opened a hatch beneath the floor, an old maintenance tunnel leading to the Undercity. They slid inside just as the main door burst open. Light flooded the ship and robotic soldiers stepped in, but Elias and Lyra were already gone, disappearing into the dark tunnels below. As they crawled through the narrow path, Lyra looked back and whispered, "They'll never stop, will they?" Elias shook his head. "No, but neither will I." Above them, thunder cracked, and for a brief moment, the entire city of Eterna 9 glowed like a dying star, as if the world itself was watching their escape. The tunnels beneath Eterna 9 were endless and cold. Elias and Lyra moved through the darkness, their footsteps echoing softly. The only light came from the glowing sphere she carried, its blue pulse fading like a dying heartbeat. They had been walking for hours. Above them, the city thundered with life. Drones searching, soldiers shouting, machines roaring. But down here, only silence lived. Elias stopped near a broken metal door and caught his breath. "We can rest here," he said softly. Lyra sat beside him, wrapping the small furry creature in her blanket. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "They won't stop, will they?" she whispered. Elias shook his head. "No, but they'll lose the trail soon. The false signal is still working." She smiled faintly. "You're smart, Daddy." The simple word Daddy still hit him hard, not with fear anymore, but with warmth. He smiled. "You make me want to be smart." They both laughed quietly, their voices echoing in the empty tunnel. For a brief moment it felt almost peaceful, just a man and his daughter hiding from the world. But that peace didn't last long. The sphere suddenly flickered again, then projected a faint hologram into the air. A message from Nova. "Elias," her voice said through static. "I found a way out. Dock 47, an old transport ship, still works. You can escape before they seal the sky gates. But you must hurry. They're moving the drones south." The hologram vanished. Elias stood up quickly. "Dock 47, he repeated. "That's near the old shipyards." Lyra nodded. "Then we go now." They climbed through the last tunnel until the air changed. Fresher, colder, filled with the smell of rain and oil. Ahead, through the cracks, they saw the open night. The shipyard was massive, filled with rusted cargo ships and cranes long forgotten. The wind howled between the metal walls like a lost spirit. In the center stood a small vessel, old but still shining faintly with power. Its name was painted on the side, Aurora 7th. Lyra's eyes lit up. "It's beautiful," Elias smiled tiredly. "It's freedom." They hurried inside. The control room smelled of dust and burnt wires. He started the old engines, fingers moving fast across the controls. The ship groaned, lights flickering awake after years of sleep. But just as the thrusters came online, a loud alarm screamed through the yard. Drones appeared in the sky, red lights scanning the ground. "They found us," Lyra shouted. "Hold on." Elias yelled, gripping the controls. The ship lifted slowly, engines roaring. Blasts of blue light struck the hull as the drones fired. Sparks flew across the cabin. Lyra cried out, holding the small creature close. "Daddy, I've got you," Elias shouted, his voice strong and full of fire. The Aurora 7 broke through the roof, flames trailing behind it. The drones chased them through the storm, but the ship pushed higher and higher until the clouds swallowed everything below. Inside the cabin, Elias focused on the radar. "We're almost through the atmosphere," he said. "Once we break orbit, they can't reach us." Lyra stared out the window, watching the stars appear one by one. Her small hand reached for his. "Are we safe now?" Elias looked at her and smiled. "Yes, we're finally free." The engines roared as the ship left the planet's pull. The stars spread wide and endless before them. For the first time in years, Elias felt peace. No alarms, no orders, no knocking, just silence and the heartbeat of space. Days passed aboard the Aurora 7th. Elias repaired the systems, while Lyra learned every corner of the ship. They laughed, talked, and watched the stars together. Every morning, before Elias woke, Lyra would walk to the door of the control room. She'd knock softly, knock, knock, knock it, and whisper, "Daddy." He would open the door, smiling every time. "Yes, I'm here." One day, as they drifted between the stars, Elias sat by the window and saw something glowing far away. A new world, full of light and green oceans. He looked at Lyra. "That's our new home," he said, her eyes filled with wonder. "Will they find us there?" He shook his head. "No. This time no one will take you away." Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then I'm finally home." Elias closed his eyes, feeling her small heartbeat against his chest. In that quiet moment, all the running, fear, and pain faded away, somewhere beyond the stars. Humanity's greatest secret, a bond between man and creation, lived on. And every morning, without fail, came the gentle sound that started it all. Knock, knock, knock.